Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Google Earth projects, and we are going to also look at online timelines through Night Lab. So welcome. You should be seeing a big Earth in front of you through Google Earth. Many of us have used Google Earth before just to um, to search around, to look at things like that. It used to be app only. Now it allows you to use Google Earth from the web. So you can use this with your students on their Chromebooks and or a PC, anything that connects to the web. I will warn you, it is a resource hog. So you will see maybe throughout this presentation, sometimes it takes a while to load, might freeze up, things like that. But it is a very good resource, very detailed, looking at some landmarks and things that I know. Some have been updated as recently as this year. 2023, some have been a year or two old, but you might see those people driving by your road and taking those new pictures for Google Earth. So it is a great resource to have, and kids like to use it, especially when it's in the 3D mode. So I am going to get started with the projects. If you are not already in, it is earth.google.com. That is how you get to Google Earth. If you are not signed in to your Gmail, your school Gmail, and or your personal, you will want to be signed in. The projects, the part that we are going to look at, actually stores a file in your Google Drive. So if you're not signed in, it obviously doesn't know where to save it. So I will give you a second to get to earth.google.com and make sure that you are signed in. And you can see up here that I am signed in with my work Google account. So looking at the side, we have our navigation. By default, it is the condensed version, but if you hover over each of these, it is going to tell you what each of those icons are. If I click on my pancake menu at the top, it will expand the menu so I can see the results with each of the icons. We are going to look at something called projects. And like I said, projects actually save into our Google Drive. So right now, you probably don't have any projects created. So this is going to be blank. But what will happen when we start creating today, it is automatically going to create a folder in your Google Drive called Google Earth, similar to Screencastify. So it's going to try to organize all your Earth projects together in this one file. Um, so if I open up this folder, you're going to see any of my Google Earth projects that I have. If you um, attempted this or played around with this uh, in years past, it's been around for a couple years now, you might have projects that are just sitting out there. Well, when we search our drive, when we're looking at our advanced search, notice one of our types, our document types, is not for Google Earth. So if you do want to search your entire drive, you do have to go the long way, and we want the type called Earth. And what it will do is it will populate any of your results of any Google Earth projects that you have created recently and or in the past, and then it will tell you what location it is in. Okay, like I said, if you've used this in years past, you wanted to see what it was, maybe you tried to attempt to create one, it just might be sitting in your drive somewhere and not organized in this new Google Earth folder that it automatically creates. So I can open an Earth project right from here, but we are going to go back into Google Earth and we are going to start one from scratch. So again, looking at the side, this icon right here is our projects. Okay. So think of projects as like a graphical storyline of places that you have been. Or it could be something for history. So if you teach history, maybe you want battles of the Civil War and you want to plot those out. Maybe you work with eighth grade students and they've taken their Washington DC trip and you want them to plot all the monuments and places that they have gone through their trip. Maybe your language arts and you're reading a story, and in the story, there's different settings and different locations, and the students can talk about what happened at that location. So the first thing that you are going to do is up in the top is well, if you didn't already click on the projects, we are going to click on new project and we are going to create a new project in Google Drive. Okay. I'm not going to open one, even though that I am going to go back to one that I have, but I want you guys to create yours from scratch. And like I said, that first time it is going to create that Google Earth folder for you in your Google Drive. So I already have one created. So I wanted some to be created so you guys can kind of see what it does, what it looks like. So as I'm talking about these new features that and can reference where things are placed. So the first thing that you are going to do when you create is it's going to ask for that project name. So what are you going to name this? And my brother spent 20 years in the military. So not only for him did he get to travel around, but it was nice for me because I actually got to travel. I didn't have to move every 3 to 4 years. So I kind of talked about his journey across the country. And so that's what we're going to go through. So the first line is the project name, and this is what you are going to see in your Google Drive. Okay. So again, this is not the actual project itself. This is the name of the project or the file name, what you're going to see in your Google Drive. The description is optional, but you can see here I put from beginning to end. You will only see that description when you are in your Google Earth project. Okay, so you will not see that when you're in your drive. You will only see that when you have your project open. So those are the two things that you are going to fill in: the title, the project name, again, what you see in Drive, and then the description that's more for you when you are in the project itself. And if you're going to have students create one of these, the project title, might be whatever. It might be welcome back, and you want to hear about what they did all summer, places that they've gone. And then the description could be their name. They can share it with you just like they can any other Google application, but it's nice to have their name in the project as well. Okay, next, we are going to start looking at this blue button, our new feature. So we're going to look at most of these. We're not going to use all of them. But the very first thing that I would suggest is that you are going to create a full screen slide. So what does that mean, or what does that look like? When you're starting off a project, the full screen slide looks like this. It's just a still image. It has the title of your project, and then any subtitles slash description that you want to have below it. Okay, so if I look at that, again, I would go to new feature, full screen slide, and then you're going to fill out this information. So again, the title is what is going to be on that title slide or the beginning. This you can have, a few sentences, a paragraph or two, and you have some basic formatting. Not a lot of formatting, because remember, this is web-based, so it's all just your web safe formatting tools. Your background, you can add an image or you can leave it as a solid color. So that's completely up to you. But if you add an image, you would click on the plus. I already have one added. You can upload one that you have stored on your computer. I can just search Google Images for all those web safe images that I can reuse. I can search YouTube if I have a YouTube video that I want to post on there. I can search my Google Drive for any photos that I might have in my Google Drive, any photos that I have stored in my photos folder on my computer. And then, of course, if I have a URL for an image, I can paste that there as well. And I already have one, so I'm going to leave it. This set view manually, we're going to leave that alone. We'll talk about that here in a little bit when we're capturing this view. If you want to see what it looks like, there's every screen as you are creating. It's going to have a preview. So if you click on the preview, it's going to show you what that slide looks like. And then I'm going to click on close. So you're thinking now, I'm going to go back. You're thinking now, you're like, well, she's creating a slide. Why wouldn't I just do this in a Google Google Slides? Well, this is where the next feature comes in. So that's just the beginning of our story. So think of that as like the cover page. Now we're going to start adding those locations. So again, maybe a welcome back activity. You can have the students plot all the points that they went this summer, whether they went to Cedar Point or maybe they went to Columbus or they went out of state on vacation. You can get to know them by the different places that they went, and they can tell you a little bit about it. So the next feature that we're going to talk about is searching and adding a place. So once you do that, this is how you search Google Earth. And it's the same basically as going here to my search, except it allows me to be able then to add it to my project. So an area that I missed where my brother was is it's Air Force Base. So I'm going to look for it and then I'm going to click on it. And you'll see that it'll take me there in Google Earth. It gives me my little place marker. It's going to show me right now I'm in 2D. I can also switch to 3D down here at the bottom. You can see it gives me my little Earth down here. But if this is the location that I want, and I'm like, yep, that's where he was, I now want to add that to my project. So once I click here and say add to project, this is now where I can start customizing that place mark. So by default, when you search for a location, if it is a known location or a known city, it is going to give you the Google description. Okay, so in this case, it's going to give me a brief description about Vance Air Force Base. My suggestion is if you want to be able to type and give your own description, your own images and or videos, same with your students, you're going to want to click on this replace. So once I click on replace, you're going to see that this information provided by Google is going to disappear and I'm going to get extra options. So here's now where I have the option to add a photo. It's going to keep my title of what I searched for, which was Vance Air Force Base. And then it gives me the description box to be able to type in. So if they are working on different locations of, again, maybe Washington, D.C. and different monuments, this is maybe where they're going to give 3 facts about the monument that they visited. Okay, so if I click on the add image, same thing is going to populate here, where I can search different things. So I'm just going to grab an image that I know I have. Let's go into here. And I know this one's been used quite a few times. So you'll see it throughout, but we'll use this one. So I'm going to populate that in here. You can have multiple pictures. I'll show you examples of that. And you can include those YouTube videos as well. Remember, they have to be posted to YouTube and they can't be a private in order for other people to be able to see them. And then this is my description. Okay. And then down here is the info box. So there are three options. If you don't have a description and or images, you just want the place marker, you can say no info box and it's not going to populate. The small info box is going to be a small little white box on the right hand side. And then the large info box is going to be a large black banner that takes up the whole right side. So I'll show you each of those. For right now, I'm just going to do a small info box. Then the next thing I'm going to look at is my place markers. So by default, it populates a place marker for you. I have small, medium, and extra large. So if I really want this to stand out, I can pick extra large. It enlarges it. Or I have some extra options with little symbols in them. So if you know that it was a camping trip, you can pick the little tent and have that place marker instead of just the dot. You have some colors that you can pick from. So if your favorite color is a blue, you can pick a blue so that, all your place markers are blue. Again, we are not going to look at this set view manually. That is your longitude and latitude based on where your place marker is. If you want a different location from where the place marker was placed, so for example, maybe I want the hangars. I don't want just the middle of the airfield. I want all the hangars. So I'm going to move my screen to where I want, and I'm going to click on this capture this view, and you will see my latitude and longitude is going to change based on that. So now it has everything stored. So now when I visit this place marker, it is going to go to this view. Okay. So we're done with that place marker. We're going to go back, and this is where you can keep adding more and more. So I added that later. Okay, so when you add a new feature, it always goes at the bottom, but it allows you to rearrange them. You can just by clicking and dragging. So I know when he went to this, he went in between these two Air Force bases. So I'm going to move it. You can see the little line is indicating where it's going to be placed. So once I click and let go, it is going to place it in the correct order. So let's look at the differences between some of that small box versus the large box versus not clicking that replace. So if I click on this one, you can see this is what the large box looks like. So when you're creating that description, you're adding your images, it's going to place it over here on the side. If I chose the small box, which I think I did for this one, you can see it just places it in the top corner. Okay, so it's a little bit smaller, still has, the description, still has the title and the images, but everything's just smaller. Then the last one is by using the Google information. And this is where it typically freezes on me. So we'll see. There it goes. So you can see I did not click on the replace on this one. So it is just showing me from Wikipedia what it has based on this Air Force base. Okay, so of course it's a known location, so it's just going to provide that information. So if you forget to click on the replace, I can always go back in. I can click on edit. You can see that it is giving me the information from Google, and I forgot to replace it. So if I did want to add my own images, I can click on replace. Okay. So now let's take a look and see as it's coming together. What does it look like? So I have several different locations. Okay, so I want to start this journey from the beginning. Oops, I don't want to click on it. What I want to do is to go into present mode. So this is what allows me to take me through step by step. So if I go into present, this is that full screen title page that we created at first. You can see that it has the information and it also provides a table of contents. So if you want to go through this quickly, you can jump around and see, okay, I have 8 different locations or 8 different things happening, and I can jump back and forth between them. If I just want to go one at a time, I can go page by page down here. So then this is my first location. You can see that it is going to open up the map and it is going to pull in that location. And then you can see I have my large box option over here. Okay. Then I'm going to go to my next location. It's going to fly across the country to my next pin and it's going to find that next one. And so forth, so on and so forth. So as I go to my next one, this is the one I just created. It's in the correct order because I drug it. And then look, even though I had that place marker down below a little bit, remember I clicked on that capture this view and I picked all the hangers. So that's where it's that's what it came to when we went to that place marker in our story or our project. So the next one here is just that Google information that I said. So it populates that in the corner, which if I click on it, it is a live link to the Wikipedia article. So if I wanted to click here, it takes me in and shows me that information here. Okay. And then my next one. So we're going to look at this one. So this is what is called This is just called a tile overlay. So notice it didn't necessarily go to a location yet, but it's providing me with an extra picture and extra information. So let's go look at that before we finish out. So I'm going to click on my back arrow to get out of the project. And then I created this one, which was called an overlay. So if I click on my new features, this is called a tile overlay. So when I click on that, looks very similar to our location, but just notice it doesn't allow me to search for a location and it doesn't give me that place marker. So it's just going to go or overlay in between your two place markers. So again, I can pick an image. We'll pick, oh, the beach is always fun. So we'll do the beach. I'm going to hit select. I can have multiple images here if I want. So if I want a second image, I can click on that and click on this one and hit select, and you can see now I have multiples. So, and if you haven't figured out, my brother lives in Georgia. So, and that's our typical vacation spot that we go to all the time so we can visit with him. Okay. So then again, same thing. I can have that small info box, that large info box. So depending what I want. And then we're not going to worry about any of these other options. So then what I'm going to do is preview this and you're going to see it's going to populate just like it would. And notice now this time I have arrows. That is because we added multiple pictures. So if you have a picture in a YouTube video, then I can go between them. So then it's just like a photo roll. I can keep going through them. Okay. So let's see how that overlay happens. And you can see the icon is different next to the overlay versus my place marker. So if we're presenting, and I'm going to skip a little bit. So this is where he ended up. So I'm going to skip from here. It's going to skip to my next place marker. So it's going to populate that info box. And then our next one is the overlay. And you can see it keeps me at that same place marker, that same area, but it is providing me with those new pictures, that new title and description. So just think of it as extra information for that place marker. Okay. Do I have any questions? Okay. So looking at this again, as you are creating, the other option that you might want to use is to draw a line or a shape. So if you wanted an arrow or a circle or something like that, you could do that. Um, the add place marker, this is a little bit difficult. So this is just, adding a point on the map instead of searching for an exact location. So to me, I found that adding a place is a little bit easier than adding a place mark because when you add the place mark, you're actually having to find that location, have it up on the screen, then you can add the place marker on there. So I'm really not going to discuss that. I would suggest using the search to add. So then again, any of these, so as you're working on it, as you're presenting, so this is it basically think of as a kind of a Google slideshow. You want to present, so it gets into full screen mode. You can show these in front of the class, you can go, location by location and so forth. So as you're going through those, any of those, if you notice a typo, you want to change a picture, anything like that, each of these, as I hover, I can click on the pencil so I can edit them. So if I'm like, oh, I need to edit this one, I can click on it and you can see all that information is going to populate. Okay. So I can change my place marker. I can, do what I need to do, change dates, anything like that. It auto saves as I go. So once I go back, now it's ready for more. So, this one was the one that I still had the Google information. So let's look at that. It still has the information supported by Google. And you're like, I really need to add some information to that. Maybe you need to add dates, something like that. So you're not ready for this one to be visible yet for other people to see. So if I click on back while I'm in my list, as I hover over, if I don't want that one to be seen yet, I can just click on the eyeball and it's going to hide. So now it's hidden from the view. So if I go to present and in my table of contents, you can see that the joint base is missing, which it's Charleston Air Force Base, but it's joined with um, the airport, so that they call it the joint base. Okay, so then when I'm ready for it, maybe I make my edits, I have everything ready, I'm ready for it to view again. I would click back on the eyeball and it's back into my story and or my project, however you want to call it. Any that you don't like, so maybe you're like, oh, I don't like how I did that overlay. I can click on the three little dots and I can say delete. Notice your overlay feature also has the opacity. So if you want to lighten it so it's just maybe a few pictures in the corner, you can change the opacity of that. But you'll notice that any of my locations do not have that option. It's only my overlays. So then if I want to delete this, I can click on delete and then it has been removed from my project. So the last thing is, well, how are these kids going to get this to you? Well, they're probably going to want to share it. It's already, again, auto-saved in their Google Drive. So if I go to my Google Drive, you can see it's right here and it's being updated as we are working. Let me refresh my screen so you can see. So as you work on it, it constantly is updating and it keeps it into this nice and neat Google Drive folder. Okay. But if you want your students to share this with you, so, whether they're going to share the link through Google Classroom, maybe they're going to send it to you, maybe they're just going to share it with you individually. So again, it is like sharing a document, a slideshow, whatever other application that your students are sharing with you. If I click on the share project, the first time through, it's going to say, that this is not shared if you want to share it, and it'll bring you to the share screen. But you can see, if Rebecca is my teacher, I can just share it directly with her. And then I can send a message just like I would any other document. Okay. Maybe I just want her to be the viewer though. So the student only wants the teacher to view this. So you can have them all right there. You can bring them up in class so that you can display them, with the projector or on the TV. The other option is to have a link. So by default, just like a Google Doc or a slideshow, it is restricted. So if I click on this, I can say, well, maybe I want anybody within my district um, to be able to see it. So this is, if you're working with littles, this is a good way to restrict it. So only those people in your district can click on the link and view it. If you want parents to be able to see it, anything like that, then of course you would want to be able to open it so anyone with the link can view it. Okay, so I'm going to open it, anyone with the link. It is set to view by default. You do not want to change this to edit because you don't want people to be in your project editing. So you want to leave that as viewer, and I am going to copy that link. So I'm going to open up incognito window real quick. I'm going to paste that link. Give it a second. A long second. There it goes. And you can see here it brings up the project. So it automatically defaults to that project button. It's showing me that it is view only, who created it or who the owner is, and then all the different locations and the ability to present it. So again, if your students are sharing this with you, they can copy and paste that link into, a Google Classroom assignment, a Google Sheets if you have a sheet, and tell all the kids to paste their links there. But then you can have this in front of the class, projecting it on your TV or with your projector, and you can show the rest of the students. And again, I allowed it to be viewed by anyone with the link. Okay, so when I am looking at my locations, let's go into edit. So each of your locations, it's just going to pick a place marker. Okay. And remember, I said, here's the latitude and longitude of where this place marker is. If I want it to be more of a different area, I'm like, well, it's cooler to have an airplane in the image than just the middle of the airfield. So if I move to this location and I say capture this view, it is going to change the longitude and latitude. It will also show the altitude of that location. Okay. So I have not messed around by trying to use longitude and latitude to pick my places. I have basically searched. So when I create my place marker, I am searching, and that's going to find the longitude and latitude for me. Okay. But if you do capture the view, it is going to update all of that, including the altitude. Okay. And then again, like I said, you can use this for, welcome back activity to see what the students did over the summer. Maybe you're reading a book and there's different locations. Again, if you work with your students and they're going on a class trip, a DC, or, even maybe they went to Spain over the summer. It was a, class trip to Spain or France. Have them, mark all the locations that they saw. They can give brief descriptions about them. You might have requirements and say, three features of the monument that you saw in DC. So a lot of different activities that you can do with this. So it doesn't just have to be um, for like social studies. You can bring it into different things, but definitely you can use it for history and plotting, different locations of, different trails that, some of our founding fathers, were traveling down, or where some of the battles have taken place, anything like that. So a lot of different ideas that this can be used for. So before I move on, I just want to check to see if there are any questions for Google Earth projects. Okay, so our next one is working with some timelines. So this is kind of similar, just without the locations. So this is one that I like. There are multiple um, different online timelines, but this is just one that, again, it works with your Google Drive. So trying to bring that in, but it allows you to make a timeline, and it looks nice to be able to present in front of the class. So there is a little welcome video on here. It's about 2 minutes if you want to watch that, but I'm kind of going to be your welcome video. There are some examples that are already created. But when you are creating a timeline through using timeline.nightlab.com, okay? So again, timeline.nightlab.com. And I'm going to put that in the chat so you have that, because night is spelled with a K. Um, there are 4 steps to creating your timeline. Okay. So the first step is you are going to create a spreadsheet template. So when you click on this, get the spreadsheet template, it is going to force you to make a copy. Once you say make a copy, and I'll bring up that screen. Oh, ignore that a second. Once you make a copy, it is going to populate this in your Google Drive. Okay. So it does not organize it like Google Earth Projects does. It just puts it into your drive, and then you can put it wherever you want. So again, it forces you would have to click make a copy, and then you will see the spreadsheet in front of you. So that is step number 1. Okay, so then we're going to go to step number 2, which is you are going to publish this to the web. Okay, yes, we haven't made any changes yet, but we are going to get this setting done so we don't forget to do it later on. Notice in the notes it says do not set your timeline so that anyone with the link can edit. This is not necessarily, because once you publish it to the web, any updates that you make to it, it's automatically going to be updated and available to anybody on the web. And you're going to see how we're going to copy and paste the URL, and it turns it into the nice timeline. Okay. So I am now ready to start modifying oh, let's go back. How do we publish this to the web? So before we start modifying, I'm going to go into File. It is under the Share now. So it used to be its own separate line, but now it is in Share, and you'll see where it says Publish to Web. So once I click on that, we're not going to worry about changing any of the settings. You'll see that it says automatically republish when changes are made. You can restrict it. So if you're working with littles, only people within your domain will be able to see it. So you can do that, but there'll be a button that says Start Publishing. Okay, and you can see mine is published, so it says publishing, and it says stop publishing. So if I wanted to stop it, are you sure? Okay. So now it's no longer published, so it would not work. So in order for it to work again, I have to click on publish, or I can click start publishing, and then it is now published. Okay. So once that's done, it's out of the way. Any changes we make, they're automatically going to be updated in the timeline that we're going to preview. So I am going to close out of the screen, and we are now going to start um, modifying our spreadsheet. So the first thing that I want to say, row number 1, never change. Do not change anything in there. It's got all the coding so that everything works. It does have little notes in all of these, so you can see all the ones that have little black in the corner. That's the notes feature in Google Sheets. So if you're not sure what it is or if you have to have it, it's going to tell you if it's optional. And then, for example, for media, which is optional, but it tells you what you can include. Okay. So then line number 2, and you can see that it is a different color. This is because this is your title or your welcome slide. Okay. So this is what it's going to start off with. So I just did, just a timeline about myself. Again, great opening activity for your students at the beginning of the year to get to know them a little bit. So they can do something very similar to this. So of course I have my name and then a little description of me, just saying that it's the timeline of me. Okay. And then you'll notice for my title slide, I don't have any dates. I don't have any beginning dates. I don't have any end dates. I don't need them because I just want this to be the title slide. Then I can start going through anything under headline. This is going to be, think of this as your title. So the title line, it's bigger text followed by my subtitle, which is my optional text here. So this is your bigger font, a smaller font. Okay. So I just went through. I have starting dates. I don't have end dates, thank goodness, because I'm still here. So, but if you're doing a timeline of, maybe they're doing famous people or something, a famous person in history, a famous author, maybe when the book was, they were the years that they were working on publishing a book, something like that, they might have end years. But in this case, I only have beginning years. I don't have any end. Okay. So, and again, I'm just going to type text. I can have more than what I had. This is just a quick example. So this has media from Wikipedia. So again, I just found it, copied the URL and brought it in. You can also bring in videos from YouTube or Vimeo. So you can also bring in pictures. I m- I had some from Flickr from long, long time ago that are in the format that is needed. Images are a little harder to work with because they have to be in the proper format. So if we are looking at our Night Lab screen, down here at the bottom under the help section, it has an area of supported media types. So it's going to go through a little bit more detail of, it needs to have JPEG at the end or it needs to have PNG at the end and so forth. So that information again is under help at the bottom of your screen. And I believe you can get to it from the top as well. Okay. So now as I go through here, I can add more rows too. You can see that it's kind of limited on the amount of rows, but if you need to add more, you might not need to add 1,000, but you can add 5 more, 10 more. They suggest try to keep your um, your timeline to less than 20 because then it gets kind of too big and drawn out. Sometimes there might be cases where you need more than that, but kind of keep it short and sweet. You don't want to have, every minute of every second of something that is going on. So now you have information here, and we're not going to talk about any of the background information. We're just going to leave it as is. Um, So now I'm ready to preview it and see what it looks like. So I am going to copy this URL from here. So just from the top, I'm going to do a Control C to copy. I'm going to go back into my steps where it says step number 3, generate your timeline. This is where I'm going to paste my URL. Okay, so I'm going to click on paste. Then I have options. So how do I want to show this? I can change the language if I need to. So if I'm teaching a foreign language and I want my students to have it in that language, I have a few fonts to choose from. So I can pick some of these fonts so it looks a little bit different. Okay. If you wanted to start with a different slide besides, which would be on line number 2, you can do that. And really most of these you're not going to touch. So then what you want to do is you have 2 options. We're not going to embed this right now because I'm not working on my web page or whatever. I want to preview this. So you have the option to preview down here at the bottom, or you can preview in a new window. So it's just going to open up a new tab. So let's do that. So you can see here, it kind of creates the timeline at the bottom for the students, and then it has the marker, okay, of my first item. So this is just my title slide. So that was row number 2. So as I'm looking at this, okay, so as I'm updating, I can update as I need, type in more information. I do need to refresh that. So let's try this again. Let me try this again. And then preview in a new window. It should automatically update. Not sure why it's not. We'll check it here in a second. It might just be a little bit behind, but then you can see I have these markers on the sides. So if I click on my arrow, it's going to take me to my next one. Okay. This is that Wikipedia article that I found. So, if I click on it, it's going to take me to that exact article. Okay. And then again, it has the date. So that was the beginning, those beginning dates. So the ones underneath the red, the event or the headline, which is right here. And then the next one is, think of it as the subtitle. So that is any text. And then you can see here, I have markers both ways, so I can go forwards and backwards. So then I can go here, go next, and I can keep going through, and you can see the timeline is created at the bottom. And then the slides or the images and information is at the top. So again, it's not necessarily different for the kids. It's just the way that it can be presented. So it's nicer to see. So if a student's creating a timeline, nice and easy in a Google Sheet, they don't know what it's going to look like until you have it published and you can show them in the front of the class. And this one, if you notice, has the black background. If you look over here on the side, if you know some HTML coding, this is just looking for the background color. So you can't just put black. It is looking for that color. So these are a little bit more detailed to kind of adjust what the timeline looks like. So, and then again, for my Wikipedia information, so I just found, I did Parma, Ohio. So I found the Wikipedia article, copied it, and then I pasted it in the correct column underneath media. And then it did all of the populating of this for me. I did not do that. I just simply pasted the URL for that in order for it to be placed. Same for a YouTube video. So if you have a YouTube video that's published on the web, you can copy that URL link and paste it in here, and then it'll populate that YouTube video. So again, if I go back into my help area, the supported media types, it's going to show you all the different types that it will accept. Okay. Any questions with creating a timeline? So again, very easy, 4 simple steps. The first is creating a template. So if you want to help your students and get started, because when you create that template, it does have the generic information in there. You can clean it up when you make a copy, and then you can take that document and put it into your Google Classroom and share it out that way. So make a copy for each student. So each student gets their own template. And then, especially if you're working with the littles, you can publish it for them, so then you can present it in the front of the class. If you're working with the older students, you can walk them through the steps of going to file, share, and then publish to web. So then it's published, and then you will have access to the URL if you share it through your Google Classroom. Um, as long as you have the ability to edit, you have the ability to copy the URL. Okay. And then, once it's published, then I would say start making your changes and so forth. Um, what I see most often is that it's not published. Everybody makes their changes, is excited about it, and goes to preview and forgets the publish part. They just skip on down to step number 3 and paste their URL here. And then when they preview, nothing populates. So, just remember to publish that first. Okay. And you can see I just clicked on the click preview button here. It doesn't open it in a separate tab like the first one did. It just opens it down here so I can look at it quickly. And you can see now it just must have took a second for it to update from the spreadsheet, but that new information is there. Okay, I am going to stop there and see if anyone has any questions. So again, 2 different ways to kind of do a story, one more with dates and one more with locations. They both work with your Google Drive account. So one organizes for you, one you will have to organize, but just 2 different ways that, students can get information to you, different than using a Google slideshow or something that they're familiar with. So hopefully everybody can use this, at some time throughout the year, working with their students. And as always, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact us. Thanks and have a great rest of your summer.